Greetings, Glitter Gang, and happy Thursday. Welcome back to Kathryn Scraps Live. My name is Kathryn. This is the first show for Thursday, October 13th. And today, not this show probably, but today, we are going to do our best to finish the Christmas in July project so that we can start next week the coffin project for Halloween. I designed a template for that. So this is what the pages will look like. I have a way to bind it. I have a way to have 4x6 photos. It's going to be great. So we are going to have a coffin shaped album that we're going to be working on next. All right. So welcome back. All I do in this show is I craft live on camera an ongoing project of some kind. In this one, we are working on our Christmas in July project. Specifically, we are going to be starting to mat all of the photo wallets that go in the back of the smaller pages. Okay. So yeah, we got the photos in them already. Oh my gosh, we're so good. We're so good at crafting, everyone. We even have a template made. Congrats to us on that. We have finished everything that goes in the large red file folder. So now we're just down to the green small pages. So we've got 4 of these photo wallets to do, and then we have to decide what we're doing on the insides. Then we have to make a cover, but that's it. That's really it. So we're very close. We're very close to the end, friends. Okay, how is Mr. Marcel today? Marcel is in the office. He has been waiting to come up here for so long. Every time I came up here to do something to get ready for the show, he was like, is it time? Is it time? Is it time? And currently what he's doing is he's in his crinkle tunnel, I think eating his tail. So you'll probably see him on camera later. This is there's a cat claw on my desk. I wonder who that belongs to. Who could have left a cat claw on my desk? I have no idea. No idea who could have done such a thing. No suspects. No suspects. Okay. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, let me bring this back over here. Just going to set it so that I can see. You won't be able to see it, but I can see it, the back of the page, so that, you know, I don't pick any paper that's way off base. And what we're doing, essentially, very simple. We're just going to put something on the back. We're going to decorate the flap on the inside and on the front, and then we're going to decorate the front of this. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get all my journal type paper, and we're going to make 4 inside flaps, and we'll just go ahead and make 4 of those right away and get those out of the way. So I'm just going to get anything like this. It's like a journal type paper from the collection. Not that one. So that we can make those. And then, and that's it. So we'll just start, and I'm just going to start with them in the corner, and I should be able to do all 4 corners, and then that'll just be that. So I'm going to do it on the back so I can use a pen, and that'll just make it easier for me to see, easier for me to cut later. Now, what would be best for me, because I do want to get this done like quickly, or not quickly necessarily, but I want to make sure this album is done today no matter what. So if Marcel would just take a nap inside his tunnel, inside his little crinkle tunnel, that would be, I know that's not as fun for you, But for me, that would be my best case scenario. That he could just sleep in his little crinkle tunnel and not be tearing around on top of my desk the whole class. So we'll see. All right, so that's all 4 of them, and we do only need 4 of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut them with my large scissors and go from there. So welcome, 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 everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Marcel has been hyper all day today, and he was very calm and sleepy for like the last 2 days. And I was like, I said, where was this energy, Marcel? Where? Huh? Where? Why is there never any calm, sleepy energy on Thursdays? Why do we save our manias, our sugar rush energy for Thursdays? And he just stared at me like, I don't understand English. I don't know why you're asking me such deep questions. I'm just a cat. So that's how that conversation went. I don't know if he wants to entertain you. That's a nice spin. That's a nice spin. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but the burn on this hand has started peeling. So if you see that, that's what happened. The burn has started peeling. So no big deal. No big deal. Okie doke. So I'm just gonna, because it was such an irregular shape, I'm just going to cut it into a rectangle before I stick it in the bin with the scraps, or not the bin, but the bag with the scraps, because it's just going to be easier to use that way. Always. How did I burn myself? I burned myself not the Tuesday that just happened, but the Tuesday before that. And essentially what happened was our coffee pot has a thermal carafe, which, by the way, highly recommend. If you, the coffee doesn't burn if it sits, and it stays hot for a lot longer. So it's worth the money to get the thermal carafe for your coffee pot. Most coffee pot companies have an option for a thermal carafe. And basically it's, instead of going into a glass pot, the coffee goes into a thermos. That's how it works. Okay. So anyway, we have a thermal carafe on our coffee pot because Mr. Lifeguard and I drink our morning coffee very far apart. So that's what works. And hi, Mary. Welcome. Glad you were able to catch us live. We're live on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern USA time, which is now, and 9 p.m. Eastern USA time, which is 7 hours from now. I'm glad you were able to join us. And anyway, whoever used it before me the lid wasn't on properly, so when I went to pour coffee, it poured all onto my hand. The lid popped off and the coffee all rushed out onto my hand, and because it was at the temperature it was at when it was first brewed, I basically it was like pouring a freshly brewed pot of coffee on my hand. So that was fun times. So that was not, like I said, not the Tuesday that just happened, but the previous Tuesday, so like, I don't know, 10 days ago, something like that. And, you know, as someone who did suffer a severe burn in college, you know, burns for me can be like, you know, I'm always worried they're going to be worse than they are. I guess I would say I have a little bit of a, like, you know, it can invoke a little bit of a fear response in me. So, you know, but this was not that bad of a burn. It was really only painful for 1 or 2 days because I immediately cooled the area. One thing I learned about burns is, you know, the thing that's really going to help is, I mean, just the immediate, and this is what they tell you, but just immediately into cold water. Immediately. Stop the cooking process, basically. You got to stop the cooking process. So I did that. You know, after 15 minutes under cold water, we did, and as cold as tap water gets in Florida, if you live in Florida, you know. So there's no cold water in Florida unless there's ice in it. So, but that and, you know, lots of aloe, lots of lotion once it was, you know, no longer irritated, no longer freshly irritated. All of that. And so it ended up being more like a sunburn, you know, like a mild to medium sunburn. And because I took care of it right away, it really hasn't been that bad. So, but I am peeling this whole area, and you can see how it's really shiny right here. So this whole area is going to go. I'm going to lose this whole section, but just the very top. I'm not losing too much. So anyway, that was a very bad day for me. It's so funny. I was like, because I was also, Mr. Lifeguard told me he had made us eye doctor appointments, and then they got rescheduled by the hurricane, and that's the day he told me they were rescheduled for. So, and they were for right after the burn, pretty much. So I had to go with a burning hand to get that done. And then we got there, and he had written the date down wrong, so we didn't actually have eyeglasses appointments that day. So that was cool. That just added to the fun times, you know. That just was, that was an extra cherry on top of that morning. But, so we had our eyeglasses appointments were actually this Tuesday, so 2 days ago. And once again, I was right on the line for needing, not needing, reading glasses. And so basically what this doctor told me that the last one didn't. We got a new one because I didn't think too highly of our last one, to be honest. What this doctor said was that a good time to start with progressive lenses is when you're right on the line and you don't really need the reading glasses yet. He said because progressives can like be an adjustment, like they take getting used to how to use them, how to wear them. And he said that when your prescription is very light, it's a great time to learn when you don't really have to rely on them. So I was like, all right, whatever. My glasses already cost a fortune because I have to get, my prescription's so strong, I have to get the high index lenses. So it's like, what's another, I mean, just like, what's another amount of money? If you have bad eyes, you know, but when I was 12, my vision was 2400 when I was 12. And I have never had what they call prescription stability. So what that means is every single time I go to the eye doctor, my prescription worsens. Like I never got a period of time where my prescription stayed the same for long stretches of time. You know what I mean? which is too bad because I've always wanted the laser, but you can't get the laser if you don't have prescription stability because it's a waste of money. Okay, so I have the Spellbinders Tool in one. It does have the hook, the exact same hook as was on the Fun Stamper's Journey, so that's good. But it's not a one-to-one replacement because what it does not have is the stylus. So it doesn't have a stylus tip, which is why this side is empty. So it's, I would say it's a mixed bag. You know, it's not a perfect one-to-one. So it doesn't totally replace it, but if the thing you're using that tool for is, wow, this feels a lot looser. Okay, it just needed to stick out a little farther. I think it's okay now. If the thing you used the Fun Stamper's Journey tool for the most was the hook, and you were to lose your tool, then what you could do is you could get this, and that would at least give you the hook back. And I just had the stylus on there because it was nice to have a, oh, I already took the tape off that. Okay, cool. Because it was nice to have a spare stylus on my desk, but I do keep a stylus in my scoreboard, so it's not that big of a deal. It's just, like I said, it's just nice to have a spare stylus. All right, so I'm going to pull all of these out. Let's get these all journaled up and then go. Yeah, well, when I was in college, I had a severe burn, and that took a year to fully heal, I think, ultimately. So it was a very severe burn. I had to be I had to go to the hospital for treatment, and they evaluated me for plastics, and they said that that I wouldn't need plastics, thankfully. But I did need to be debrided, which is one of the more excruciating medical procedures that there is. And like, I remember when, if you remember when I had to have that test for neuropathy, when they stuck those needles in my legs, and then I had to flex and relax my muscles to test how my nerves were working. And I only flinched once, and the guy doing it was like, you know, you're doing really well. Most people have a tougher time with this. And I said, well, I've been debrided. And he said, oh, well, then you know. So it's like, you know, it's a horrific thing that you don't want it to happen to you at all. Anyway, so that was the most painful experience of my life, hands down, no question. And I've had abdominal surgery. So that burns are no joke. And so I do have some like residual trauma from that, I think. So whenever I do get burned, I'm always like immediately racing into action, doing everything I possibly can to minimize what's happening and that sort of thing. So I definitely have like there's still some trauma going on there. So when I do get burned, I am actually quite like a big baby about it because of that, but that's okay. So I was very cranky on Tuesday. You would not have wanted to be Mr. Lifeguard on Tuesday. Let me just say that. When we learned that we didn't have an eyeglass appointment, the only reason he's alive is because looks cannot kill. So okay, here we go. So now we've got our stack. These are ready to go. Yeah, stomach surgery is very painful as well. All right, so here we go. Now, so this one is the clock. That's what we're working with. What I want to do is I want to use the pieces of these to kind of build. So like maybe put the clock on the tab, put the presents down in the corner. You know what I mean? So I want to use these pieces and try to utilize them as much as I can. And I'm just going to cut these two apart. So I have 3 of them. Of course I do need 4, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure out the 4th one somehow. Maybe what I'll do is I'll incorporate these so that we can kind of stretch those across multiples. And I'm just going to go through the top of the stack and make sure that there's nothing else that hasn't been used. Maybe we'll use this Santa on one of them, and then we wouldn't have to stretch them. That could be kind of fun. We'll have to talk about how we would stretch the Santa so that he's on the flap and the thing underneath the flap, because they do overlap. So we'd have to kind of think about that, but so maybe Santa is not the best way, but we'll see. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. Maybe I need to look at some of these bigger embellishments as well and just kind of plan for a couple of them. Like I've got this Christmas tree. So sort of organizing your embellishments can help. As well. Because if you pull out ones ahead of time, you are less likely to overlook them. I also like this truck hasn't been used yet. So I'm going to pull that out. And then the other thing I'm going to do, let me pull these tags, and we can stick the tags in the pockets too to make them look a little more full. So we've got 2 sets of tags. All right, that's a good start. Okay. But anyway, not a big deal. So my brother and his girlfriend, and I think what I might do is stick these back to back. We'll see. I'm going to set these just on top, off to the side. Okay, so for this first one, what I'm going to do is I've got this, and I'm just going to use this trimmer, even though it's not perfect, just good enough. Okay, so I know that this is 4 1/4 inches wide, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut a 4 1/4 inch strip. And then I think it might be 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. Yeah, it's 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So just gonna cut that. All right, so then that's gonna go here. All right, and then what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put it over here on the clock, and I'm just going to line it up with the edge here, and then trace it with a pencil. And since the clock is completely covered, you know, then I know that the clock is in the frame, as it were. And then when you cut this, you know, try to just remove the pencil line. So that you're leaving the pencil line with the pattern paper. That way you won't have to erase the pencil line. So I'm just cutting to the inside of the pencil line. Okay. There we go. Beautiful. All right. So we need to keep this out. We can use this for a flap later if we want. And then for the back, I think I'll go with this or this. And let's go with the pink. Okay. Then again, I'm going to line it up with 4 1/4. And when I line it up with 4 1/4, I'm lining it up with the 4 1/4 inch line on my desk. Not at the top, because that's a little jagged. And then this one is 6 1/4. It's 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. And then that'll go on the back like so. Cute. All right, so now all we have to do is tape and ink. So, and why don't we put the big Christmas tree on the back? Maybe this is how we highlight these. Maybe that's what we're going to do. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead here and, you know, tape all around this. All right, well, I hope everyone is enjoying some nice fall weather. I know fall is a favorite season of a lot of people. I have some fall activities this weekend. I'm going with my sister and some friends to a haunted house. So we're gonna go get scared. I don't know why I taped this so thoroughly. It was very unnecessary, but whatever. Here we are. Well, I don't know about the culture project fell completely apart, but if you count the haunted house, then the next cultural event is tomorrow. If you don't, then we are going to go see Hadestown in November. So that's the next, like, indisputably cultural event, I guess. So that is the next one coming up. And then in December, there's a couple things I want to go to. I want to go to, I say this every year and then I never do it, but there's some big like ice thing where they freeze the inside of a tent and they make a little frozen village. You have to wear like a coat because it's like walking into a refrigerator and everything. So there's one of those that comes to St. Petersburg every year. And I'm always like, yeah, we're going to go to it. So this year we are going to go to it. Um, so yeah, I would count the haunted house. My sister and I have been to the haunted house before. Actually, really, it's funny because it was the first thing we did when we moved to Florida, because our road trip when we moved to Florida went so well. My sister and I, Mr. Lifeguards, not so much, because we had to drive separately because she and I had to take the cats and he had to stay behind for the movers. Anyway, it went so well. We arrived in Florida a day early and we couldn't get into the house. So we had to stay in a hotel, and we stayed in La Quinta north of Tampa, and it was right next to, just happened to be right next to this haunted house. So we went to it that night. It was actually Halloween. So it was October 31st. It was packed. It was, and we just had a fun time, and then we've just never gone back. So we're going back this year. But it's a giant, someone rents them their field, and they just build, you know, tents, like circus tents, like those huge tents, and then they decorate inside them. They have multiple zones. So when we went, there was a haunted prison, where, well, I don't know if it was haunted, the prison, but all the prisoners had escaped. And the way this place does touching is, if you're willing to be touched, then you wear this glow necklace around you, and the glow necklace has a snap closure. So if you get overwhelmed or freaked out or whatever, you can just yank it off and then they'll leave you alone. And so my sister, what we did is we got out of situations a lot using humor. So my sister got kidnapped by prisoners while we were in the prison part, and they were trying to get me to trade myself for them, and I actually offered them cigarettes instead. At the time, I was a smoker. I'm not a smoker now. And they thought that was funny, so they just let her go. And then when we were in the zombie section, and a zombie was coming after me to take me to the tent to get zombified, I said to her, you look really pretty today. And she laughed, and I got to go because she broke character. So, so that was kind of funny. So I don't know what it'll be like this year. They've added to it over time. So, and we're going with a much bigger group of people. So it should be fun. And then this weekend is kind of packed because my brother, long time ago, had planned a trip for he and his girlfriend to Disney to go to see the Star Wars stuff. And of course, this is probably not the best time. Maybe it is the best time to go to Disney. I want, you know, but it, you know, we, as many of you know, we just had a hurricane go through pretty much all of Florida, across the middle of Florida. And I do think Orlando was in the mix. So we also have to then drive to Orlando Sunday night to have dinner with him. So, and my scissors are cutting very slowly. So what that tells me is that it's time to clean them. And I clean them with undo. So I put a little bit of undo on the scissors, and then you just need something to kind of buff the adhesive off the scissors. So I'm just going to use this clothespin, and then you can just wipe the undo and the adhesive remnants away with your wipe, and it's very quick. And then just look at the difference. You see all this scum? That's because these are not non-stick scissors, and I don't and I cut through adhesive anyway. And eventually what happens is, if you notice that it seems like harder to cut, or your cuts are not as precise as they were, or whatever, could be that your scissors are dirty. And really all you have to do is just get that glue off. And undo works great for that. Undo works great for that. All right. So, oh yeah, smooth. Okay, so we'll ink everything and get it stuck down. So we have quite the packed weekend. Now, we're not doing anything in Orlando other than going to dinner with him. I don't think there's any plans for like an outing, but we're going to have dinner with him, see him, say hi. And then, yeah, tomorrow we've got our haunted thing. So now I'm just inking everything, and then we'll tape it and stick it down, and then this one will be complete. But yeah, so that's our October haunted, or October cultural event will be the haunted house, and then the November event will be going to see Hadestown, and then I want to do some Christmassy stuff in December, and then that'll be that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and stick this down on the back. Cute. All right, burnished. All right, now to tape. And then we'll be done with this folder. So, but yeah, and then I think my sister wants to go, I think my sister wanted to go see a spooky movie sometime this weekend, but then I don't know if she realized exactly how much we had, remembered exactly how much we had going on. So we may not, we may do that another time. All right, so what else? So since I last saw you, Mr. Lifeguard and I noticed that there was quite a lot. It might not be since the last time I saw you. I don't know if maybe it's like 2 weeks ago, but anyway, we noticed when we were getting ready for the hurricane that like the freezer that we have in the garage and the fridge freezer combo that's in the garage, that those were like very chaotic. So we spent a lot of time, it might have been last weekend, getting that organized. So if you've already heard this story, my apologies. We spent a lot of time getting that organized. And like one thing, for example, that we had done with the chest freezer was we had put these boxes in the bottom of the chest freezer to put a false bottom so that it would be easier to reach things, you know. And one of the things we discovered is that over time things have fallen down behind those boxes, under those boxes, and that was just like a little like freezer graveyard basically. And so we took we decided on a whole different approach to the freezer. So we have these, and I've talked about them before, and I think they might even be on my favorites list, but they are hard-sided grocery boxes, and that's what we use for our reusable grocery bags. Is they're actually boxes, and they fold flat, and they have handles, and you just carry them. And they work so good because they just sit in the back of your trunk and you just carry them into the house. It's easy to carry, and the people who work at the grocery store love them because it's very easy for them to pack them because they stand up straight. They hold themselves up. And so, you know, that really helps I'm just going to check my idea list to see if it is on there. And if it's not, I'm going to add it. These grocery bag boxes. Yeah, they're on there. So it's the Green Bulldog reusable grocery bags, heavy duty foldable washable canvas tote shopping bags. That's what they are. And now Green Bulldog is our preferred brand, and we had gotten some that were cheaper, you know, from another company, and they were not as good, not even close to as good. So we only use the Green Bulldog now. Bev says she loves them. So there you go. There's a second opinion. So the Green Bulldog brand is the best. They're the strongest. They last the longest. And they're just worth spending the extra money to get those. And they're not that much more. I mean, well, no, they are a lot more. They're like $10 or $12 more expensive than the other ones. That being said, it is worth it for those. But, so we have these other ones that we don't really use. So, and they fold flat. So you just put a stack of them underneath your grocery cart while you're doing your shopping, and then you can, what we do is we make 2 of them and send them down before our groceries, so they're waiting at the bottom for them. They have 2, and then as they need more, we can make more. But they hold a lot. You really know, we rarely need more than 3, I would say, if that. It's not very common that we would need more than 2, really. But there is only 2 of us, so if you have a larger family, then that is, you know, take that into consideration. But anyway, so the ones that we don't like, what we did is we made different categories of food. So like we made a dairy where we have like frozen cheese and things, and we made a you know, like a chicken, because we eat chicken more than we eat any other kind of meat, and then we have all other kinds of meat. And so we filled them with like very specific categories so we would know exactly what was in them, and we put them in the bottom of the freezer, and then we put another row of them on top of them. So now if you want something that's in the bottom of the freezer, all you have to do is lift out the box bag that's on top. They have handles. Lift it out, set it on the floor, and then use the handles on the one underneath it to lift it up. You can set it on top of the freezer. You can go through it very easily, find the thing that you want, and then put the 2 bags back in the freezer. So no more digging, rummaging. And like for me, I don't have nails right now, but back when I, you know, had nails, it was almost impossible to dig through the freezer by myself without breaking a nail, or bending a nail and hurting myself and that kind of thing. So this has been really, really very helpful for organizing the freezer to go to using these boxes. But we're definitely on a project to use up some of the weirder things that we found in there. So like we found a bag of barramundi fish, frozen fish fillets. And so I used that to make a big batch of fish stew. Okay, so here's flap number 1. Or wallet, photo wallet number 1. Nice. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to do the next one as well, and then we'll have 2 on this video, and then I'll do a recording break, and we'll have 2 on the next video. So the next one is a candle. So I think we can pretty much use whatever we want, but if we see something candle-ish, we can do that. So what I'm then going to do is take a look at my little stack here. Yeah, I was just thinking about the lantern and the cutouts for the back. So I agree with that, Donna. Let me go find it, because it's nice and big to go on the back as well. It's not on that sheet of cutouts, it's on this sheet of cutouts. So this is the nice big lantern from the cutout sheet. Okay, so we've got that, and then I think what I'll do is I'll put that on the snowflakes, so we'll use the snowflakes. Okay, and then we can do this on the flap and maybe the girl underneath for the actual like paper matting. Okay. All right, so first things first, let me just cut this out. And this one I'm going to cut before taping. And I'm just going to glue it to the pattern paper, and I think that'll just take less time. All right, thank you everyone. This project is just so cute. This paper is fun to work with. Lots of ways to make your pages pretty. Hi, Monica and Beverly. Welcome. Welcome to everyone else as well. I don't think I said hi to everyone specifically because I wanted to just get this project done today. But we shall see. And this may be one of those nights where we just are up late, you know, tonight if we're working on the cover. I just switched scissors to my smaller scissors here. Anyway, so I made a fish stew, and then we had like a frozen baguette in there that I warmed up in the oven, and we had a fish stew with a baguette, and that was really nice. So now we're on a mission to start using up some stuff. But like a couple of the funny things that I found in there were, we had like 9 packs of chicken thighs from Costco. I mean, we must have just lost a whole pack down there. We must have just lost pack after pack to the boxes and then kept buying more and just really thought we really loved chicken thighs, you know? So we had so many chicken thighs. It was so funny. And then we had a bag of frozen chicken tenderloins that no one remembers buying. And like the weirdest thing is we had 4 or 5 pounds of unsalted butter that had been lost to the clown car at the bottom of the freezer. So now there's no more clown car, thank goodness. And we don't even use unsalted butter anymore. Okay, so recipes that call for unsalted butter, we just use salted butter and it's always fine. And then, so we just don't really see the need, even baking recipes, you know. But my favorite chocolate chip cookie recipe, which is from Sally's Baking Addiction, and it is, I think it's called chewy chocolate chip cookies, but if you just Google Sally's chocolate chip cookies, they will come up. These are the best chocolate chip cookies. They look beautiful on a plate. They wow everyone. And this is one of those recipes where you really do want to read through her steps because she kind of explains the why of everything. And then it's very helpful. Even just like the whole, like, when the cookies come warm out of the oven, she tells you to set some chocolate chips aside when you make the cookies and not to mix them in. And then when the cookies come out of the oven, you gently rest them on top of the cookies, so that there are cookies that are like, or there's chips very visible on the top of the cookies. And I can't even tell you, it just makes them look so much more like store-bought, so much more beautiful on a plate. And she tells you how to form the dough so that you get that like thick bakery look. Anyway, so this is one of the recipes where you do want to read through her whole thing. I think it's like the article that she wrote about them is like the best chocolate chip cookies or something like that. And then she has a bunch of variations. But this chocolate chip cookie recipe does in fact call for unsalted butter. So what I'm going to do, because she has put out instructions for not only how to freeze the dough, but how to cook the cookies from frozen. So that all you have to do is take your frozen cookie dough balls out of wherever you have them stored and put them on a tray and bake them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use up all of that unsalted butter to make, because we don't use unsalted butter anymore, to make a bunch of frozen cookies, and then I'll just have those. So anytime someone is feeling like sweet toothy, bam, in 15 minutes, we can have our favorite chocolate chip cookies. And that's particularly good for these chocolate chip cookies because these chocolate chip cookies take, the hands-on time is not that long, but the total time it takes to make them is like 3 hours. So you can't decide on a whim that you want to have them. So, because it does take several hours, because there's a lot of the dough having to chill, and then you form the dough, and then after you formed the dough, you have to chill it again, and all of that. So you can't really just decide, you know, one night after dinner you're feeling like you have a little sweet tooth and you want some cookies. Well, too bad for you, because you'll be up till 11 o'clock making cookies. So I'm going to do that and make a bunch of those. And I was supposed to do it yesterday, but unfortunately, I just didn't consider the other ingredients. So I decided, luckily for me, I was like, well, let me line everything up on the counter and make sure I'm good to go. It's a good thing I did that instead of just starting, because I realized that the only ingredient I had enough of was butter and flour. I actually only had this much sugar left in the jar, and I had no bag of sugar waiting in the wings to refill the jar. Oh, brown sugar. I had plenty of brown sugar and chocolate chips. The vanilla, I only had this much vanilla left in the bottle, and she uses a ton of vanilla in her recipe, so that wouldn't have been enough. So I actually had to make a list of everything I need to get in order to make these cookies. Now, luckily, you know, flour, sugar, that's not that bad. I mean, vanilla can be a little expensive, but you know, I'm not going to use the whole bottle. But still, it was kind of funny. Or you could just make any other chocolate chip cookie recipe. I mean, you can. The problem is that we really like the Sally's ones. I mean, they really are just actually very good. So, you know, we will occasionally make like your Toll House cookie kind of cookies, and they're fine if you just, you know, they're fine. They're totally fine. But, you know. Okay. So now we need to figure out where we need to cut to get her on the front. So the first thing I want to think about is 4 1/4. Okay, so 4 1/4 is just going to cut off the top of her bow. So that's okay. So we can go ahead and I'll make this cut. And then I'm actually going to go up here and cut. And then that way I can work on cutting this down to 4 1/4. So the other thing I'm going to do is, if I want the horse, okay, I can't have the nutcracker. And I think we ran into this problem before, actually, that you can either have the horse or you can have the nutcracker and the drum. And I think what we did is we cut out the nutcracker and moved him over. Depends on how hungry you are. Well, I guess I don't have like a very strong sweet tooth. Mr. Lifeguard is more of the sweet toother in the family. And so usually I can just resist. You know what I mean? Like it's okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the nutcracker and the drum so I can just move them you know, a little bit towards her legs. And then we'll make our final cut. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them out as one piece. So here I'm going to keep them attached to each other. So that's, you know, I'm more of a salty snacker, so, which is bad because, you know, demolishing chips is not any better for health and fitness. Than cookies. So Gretchen says that she tried the freezing cookie dough thing once, thinking that she could have the occasional cookie, but then she just always knew it was there, so it didn't work. Well, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh. Maybe if I freeze them in sixes, then we can only do so much damage at once. What do you think? Do you think I'll just use 2 of them? All right, so I do want the Nutcracker because he's cute, but we are going to have to kind of clean up this corner a little bit. But that's okay because we have plenty of paper scraps from cutting these papers. So I'm just going to cut like a 1-inch. You do know that frozen cookie dough is still delicious? Oh dear. Are you telling me I'm not going to solve any problems? Is that the consensus? No problems will be solved. Technically, the problem I'm trying to solve is getting rid of all of this unsalted butter in a delicious way so that it's not just taking up space in the freezer and not being used. So honestly, if we just eat all the cookies, then it's fine because the butter still got used, right? So really, you know, whatever happens, happens. Whatever happens, happens. Okay. So we're just going to line this up right here and right here. So what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to just fill that line in with the glue. That way I don't have to handle the thing when it's all gluey. Okay. All right, so now it's a square again, so I know at least where my boundaries are to put this. So the only thing we have to figure out is how to color it in so it's not like totally white. And for that, I'm just going to use I'm just going to ink it so that it's, you know, a similar tone to the background. It's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't show that much. So, yeah. So it just doesn't look like a white corner anymore, so it's all good. All right. So now we're just going to glue this guy and his drum. So now we're on a project to kind of like very mindfully use up everything in our freezer, especially if it's not something that we normally use and we bought on a whim and it's just been sitting in there forever and ever and ever. So once I'm done dealing with the butter, my next thing is, I one time accidentally bought like a giant 5-pound bag of frozen cherries. And that was just me not paying attention in the grocery app. And, oh, making flavored butters is a good idea. I could do that I do like to make herbed butters and use herbed butters. Okay, so we're going to let that dry. I'm actually going to it's getting kind of crinkly, so I'm going to put a bacon press on it. There we go. All right, so we're going to cut out our 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 piece of this one. And I'm just going to cut it like to square it up a little bit, because I think I cut this a little, just ever so slightly crooked when I cut it. What if instead of making holiday cookies, everyone just got chocolate chip cookies for the holidays? And we just didn't tell them that they'd been in my freezer for 3 months. What if that's what happened? I'm not saying that is going to happen. I'm just saying, what if it happened? It would be fine if that happened. All right. So, so the other thing, once I'm done, I gotta do the butter. So the butter is first, using up all the unsalted butter. And then after that, it's the cherries. So what I need is some holiday baking ideas that use frozen dark cherries. Like, what about like cherry chip loaves or things like that? People should be grateful for any cookies. Exactly, Gretchen. You should just, when someone hands you a cookie, you should just say thank you. Even if you don't want or need a cookie in that moment, just say thank you and give it to someone else later who might want a cookie more than you. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue this down. Cherry cobbler could be cute. So what I'm going to do with this is I am going to let it hang off that edge over there so that I can center the lantern on the piece. The reason I mentioned a loaf is because I do happen to have left over from another baking project a bunch of disposable aluminum loaf pans. So it would be cool if I could use those with the cherries. So that's what, see, all of my past mistakes, I'm going to correct all of my past mistakes. So that's what's happening. It's mistake correcting season. But I could probably make mini cherry cobblers in the loaf pans and give people mini cherry cobblers for Christmas. I'm going to figure it out. Or cherry scones. I do have a nice scone recipe. I wonder if I could just make it with cherries. I could make one and see how it went. So, and if it was good, then that could be my holiday baking contribution. But yeah, cherry chocolate chip loaves. That's what I think. Cherries, jubilees, and put in jars. Oh, see, that's a good idea. You are correct that it doesn't solve the tin problem, but we don't have to solve 2 problems at once every time. So, but yeah, I just do, so we used up all the fish. And it was delicious. We really enjoyed it. And then we still had a little bit left over. So I filled a gallon bag with what was left over, and I put it in a quarter sheet pan and put that in the freezer so it froze flat. So now when it gets cooler, I can still make make the stew again, but it'll be easy. I just have to put it in a pot and let it come up to temp. All right, so the part that's hanging over here, I'm going to cut off, and then I'll just ink the cut edge to blend it in. And there we go. Okay. All right, so now we have our lady. She can go right here, and then we'll just chop off her head. So it's fine. People like having their heads chopped off. They enjoy it. All right, so, and this has not been inked. Let's ink it. All right, there we go. Okay, beautiful. All right, and so now we're just gonna use this to get this, and I'm just gonna focus on, I'm gonna make sure I get the bottom of this one in the middle, and then that's how I'm gonna do my tracing. And I'm once again going to trace with a pencil so that if I make any mistakes, I don't have to print a new sheet of paper. All right, so now I'll go ahead and cut this out. Okay, and then we can go ahead and ink this. And I think Marcel wore himself out in the excitement of getting ready for the show and is actually sleeping through the show. Poor little guy. So tonight, I'm sure you'll see him tonight. So he'll be back tonight, I'm sure. That's so funny. But yeah, so the cherries are next. Like I said, I'm going to do the work on the butter first and then do the cherries. But I do think a dark cherry chocolate chip loaf, maybe with a little streusel topping, something like that could be very nice. Or, you know, cherry scones for people to have for their Christmas morning treat or something like that. Either of those would be fine, I think. And I do know there's different kinds of cherries for baking, and I have to make sure I pick recipes for the kind that I have. And I think I have dark sweet cherries. I think that's what I have. So just have to make sure I search correctly. Oh, he's on the move. How funny. He must have heard me talking about him. Let me see if he's somewhere where I can get you a picture of him. No. Okay. He's not. All right. All right, so I have seen a lot of cute gnome yarn projects, Melanie. I might be able to use the butter and the cherry chip loaves. It's true. It's true. Okay, so there we go. And then on the back, beautiful. All right, so that's number 2. So we're going to do a break here. For those of you who are watching live, just hang tight. Nothing's going to change for you. If you're watching in the archives or in the YouTube playlist, just click ahead to the next video and see the remaining 2 folders. So thanks so much for watching. My name's Kathryn. This is Kathryn Scraps Live. I'm live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern USA time and 9 p.m. Eastern USA time. And I'll be back tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern to spend some more time with you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.